Where your food comes from and how it was delivered to your kitchen is vital information. Food safety in America depends upon standards, inspections, and a reliable supply chain. By contrast, transporting food ingredients and final products from all around the world significantly increases the amount of carbon in our atmosphere and worsens the effects of climate change. Steven LeHat is a regulatory attorney and strategic advisor to organizations that follow ESG guidelines, that is, environmental, social, and governance goals.
So ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. In the environmental, you could think in terms of sustainability. You could think in terms of things which are not going to hurt the climate, which are going to be circular economy, as it were, that things aren't just being trashed, they're being reused, repurposed, etc. The social things such as diversity, meritocracy, equality of salaries, things of that nature. And governance, you could think in terms more or less of transparency and responsibility and accountability. Food safety compliance is another layer of ESG, because ESG is sort of based on the idea of SDGs, social development goals. And one of those goals is to feed the hungry. Another one is to feed them healthy food. In essence, in order for that to be assured, the healthy food part, you got to select it, and then you got to make sure it isn't mucked up, be it with transportation, be it with just at the plant what you're doing. So we saw all the things vanishing from the shelf, and that's because the logistics created before COVID were ill-prepared. And then the reaction to that was, we're going to get things delivered the last mile. The setup previously was not really conversant in all the things which were built on sustainability and built on alternative fuels and all the things that have been emerging as of late.
ESG is more than a lofty set of goals. In the case of Riverside County, for example, the impacts on the environment and society of Operation Room Key played an important role in changing their initial pandemic response.
I was also very concerned that our methodology was not sustainable from a carbon footprint perspective. I was very aware of where the meals would come from that we were picking up. They were actually either flown in or trucked in from Arizona to a distribution center near our office, and then we would go pick them up in our trucks and then deliver them in the trucks. So if you think about the supply chain for that food, every step of the way was carbon heavy and very carbon dependent.
I think some of the companies early on in this was literally flying food in prepared from a whole nother state, like literally 2 states away. So it'd come over here in a jet, then they land it, upload it to a vehicle, and then a vehicle to the satellite kitchen, and then that food from there, and then they drive to deliver. When thinking about how much energy just went around the world to get a meal here, and there's local people that could probably have cut that time in half.
As a vendor selected by Riverside County to implement Phase 2 of Project Room Key, I was personally confronted by the logistics challenges of meeting food safety regulations, cold storage, and transportation.
Riverside was at the cutting edge, and this dovetailed beautifully with what Alexia was trying to accomplish. And so the idea of feeding the constituencies that were at risk for hunger all of a sudden also created the opportunity for these micro concerns to be formed to feed them. Because of the effect of focusing on healthy food, it created a question of sustainability. That, for example, we were thinking in terms of the farm to the table, also with regards to the environmental piece, on the question of logistics, to try to use ways, particularly if it was localized, first food responders and micro businesses that were feeding folks in their area, there would be less travel involved, less fuel burned, and it would create an opportunity also for electrification of the process. That has created a foundation where people have fresher food because it's being shipped closer by, and more healthful food because of where it's originating from and being not processed. So it plays out very well to think about this localization to accomplish the food safety compliance piece.
California is not alone in promoting MECOs and the first food responder model. Utah became the second state to approve the certification of home kitchens for MECO cells and the distribution of meals. And in 2022, the Biden administration released details of their national agenda to address zero hunger in America by 2030.
Our new Food Safety Act is called the Food Safety Modernization Act because it is intended to have a different way of looking at food safety. It's very important. It's a responsibility. It's something that has to be in the DNA of every company.
Like so many things, building a sustainable future begins with looking for innovative solutions within our own states, counties, and even neighborhoods. The reminder to think globally and yet act locally applies here.